Hey everybody, what is going on? I want to welcome you to the second video in whatever I've decided to call this series. As of recording this, I don't know if I have a name for this yet, but I'm sure I'll come up with one. I've decided to go ahead and try another video, and in this particular video, I want to talk about the little things I do in some of my work, and try and touch on the overall idea and inspiration for my style and my color choices and everything like that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually do that, but I'm going to try. So first up, the reason I'm doing this vlog style is because it's kind of hard to show me and show my work at the same time, like to make sure that everything's in the frame. So you get a vlog style video today. Alright, so first off, let's start off with my Brent Smith painting. And let me put this on the tripod so you guys can actually see. Okay, so let's start off with my Brent Smith painting here. So, some of the reasons that this was one of my earlier paintings in this series. I actually believe it was the first one in this series that I actually did for myself, with the exception of my Edgar Allan Poe painting, which you saw in the last video. And you might see it again in this video, I haven't decided yet. But anyway, this was one of the first ones I've done for myself. And I want to point out a few things. One, you see that I attempted to make the red in the background like very flat red. I mean, it's got a gloss finish to it, but I wanted it to be as like uniform and as like, I can't even think of like the artistic word for it. I wanted it to look as one solid sheet of red as possible, with like as little tone variations as I could get. And another thing is, this is a little bit more of an action shot compared to the rest of them. I mean, my Jeremy McKinnon painting, which you'll see in a few minutes, is also an action shot in this respect, but this one, it comes across a lot better. And what I mean by that is, you can tell he's in like mid-word when he's singing, because his mouth is open and he's just singing his heart out, which, that's what I really liked about this one. It definitely says something, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's the major thing with this one, is I really wanted that red to be as uniform as possible, which it's not perfect, but it's probably as good as I'm ever going to get it. And I really wanted to catch him in raw emotion, which I did. I'm going to talk about the next one, which I'm just going to put him in front of Brent here, which is this one, which is Jeremy McKinnon of the band A Day to Remember. Now, if you've ever seen Jeremy McKinnon, you kind of know what he looks like. If you haven't, go over to Google and Google him, so you kind of have an idea of what he looks like and all that, you know. Anyway, what you will notice about Jeremy is in his facial hair. If you look at a photo of him, he has a lot more stubble and a lot more rough than what he has in the painting. And that's just really hard to convey with spray paint, like to get those tiny little minute details. And if you get real close up on it, which I'm going to zoom in here and you could maybe see it, a lot of that overspray there, when you're looking at it in person, you can see it, but you can't see it from far out like this. Go back in like that. And I'm not quite sure why that happened. I didn't do that on purpose, but it works. So, does it really matter? Okay, now again, with that purple. Now, the reason that he got purple and Brent got red is Brent and Shinedown, they are a rock band, and they are somewhat aggressive, but in comparison to A Day to Remember, A Day to Remember is just a darker sounding music. In my thought, and this is a purple color. It's not blue. On the LCD of the camera, it looks blue. It is purple. I don't know if it's coming through or not. I don't know. I'm trying to also block some glare, as you can see my shadow. So I wanted to give him that dark background color, but if you see the white spray, like overspray there, I left that because I felt like it looked like there was a light, like he was on stage, and he is singing, so that works. You know, like there's a stage light behind him, and it's just kind of hidden behind his head, so it almost has this like glowing like effect, which actually really works. But I want to, you know, it to have that aggressive, dark, you know, dark feeling about the painting without using just black. Okay, and the next one is my Rob Zombie painting. Okay, now this is obviously a take from one of the old Rob Zombie album covers. if you know which Rob Zombie album cover it is, leave a comment down below, and you get nothing, but still. And Rob is very dark, but one thing I always thought about Rob's music is it has this very like dirty, grungy, not like grunge in the sense of like grunge the genre, but just this piled together, almost messy feeling to it, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think some of you might understand what I'm saying. It just has this roughness to it, and you can't really see it very well on the camera here, but on the right side here and over here a little bit, there's some spots where it's more of a white, and especially in the background, with a green tint to it, and then you have spots up here, like up here and down here, where it's a lot more green than it is white, and there's all kinds of lines and roughness and like little scratches and stuff taken out of the green to give it that dirty, grungy look. And I did that because that's just kind of what I get from his music. And, you know, it's a lot of people feel sort of similar. Like, it's just this kind of like grungy rock music that is great. And then you have, of course, the Edgar Allan Poe painting, which, while good, was obviously the first one I've done. I showed it in the last video. And the reason he has no background color is because I feel like Poe really... Well, it's actually two reasons. For one, this was before I decided to do the background color. The original idea of this series, this style of paintings for me, was to have like an urban, you know, spray paint, graffiti, things like that, meets portraits, meets... How do I even want to describe this? It just to have it meet like the ink blot drawings. And I feel like this kind of pulls it off. It builds itself. You can tell it's a face. You know what I mean? And it almost looks like it's got a shape to it. But as for something like the Jeremy McKinnon painting, it has a shape to it too. But if it did not have that white there, it would just be black on purple. And it would be... Yes, it'd be still a portrait technically, but it would be more of an ink blot kind of thing. My original thought was, I really like the ink blot drawings. Those really fascinate me. Let's take a piece of that and throw it in my work. And that's kind of what these have evolved from. Now, this was the prime example of that before I added the red splatter paint to it. And that's exactly what it was. I feel like the image itself of Edgar like really builds itself, and I didn't need anything else. Now the red was strictly just because I felt like, you know, his work is pretty dark, and let's throw some blood on there. Now, I'm going to stop for a second and stop talking about Okay, so now that we're done showing the work, I'm going to talk about the general, like, overall thought process behind, like, the colors. Okay, I already mentioned about the Jeremy McKinnon compared to Brent Smith from Shinedown Paintings, being that they both had this aggressive sound to it for most of the time, as far as their actual music is concerned, but at the same time, one's darker than the other, and I feel like purple can be a very aggressive color. And also, you notice that the band Data, remember, uses a lot of pinks and purples and dark blues in their merchandise, and greens too. But I feel like that is a prime reason that I use that color. Even the band can identify with it to some extent. But the reason I use black and whites for the main frame of the portrait itself is because, for me, I see both. Like, when I look at a person, I can see both the good and the bad, in a way. Like, I see that there is light for every shadow, and there's shadow for every light. So to build an entire person out of just shadow and just lights was kind of always this challenge that I always wanted to take on. And that's exactly what this work that's exactly what this work has done. So that's kind of a bit about why why I use the colors. You know, the backgrounds are all tied into, you know, they're each individual thing, like what they are, who they are, their music, their background, whatever. But the overall figures remain the same. It's shadows and light, shadows and highlights, whatever you want to call it, good and bad. For every good there is a bad, for every bad there is a good. You know, yin and yang, that kind of thing. So that's why I used the black and whites. I hope this answered some questions if you had any. 2 more things for you. I want you to go ahead and go down in the comments down below and leave me any ideas for future videos like this that you want me to make. And also, I've been asked to do videos like this, but more life-related things over on my other channel, which is youtube.com/jwrightsvlogs. I used to do daily vlogs on that channel. I don't know what I'm doing with it now, but someone's like, hey, you should do videos about life things. And I don't know, I'm considering it. So let me know if you'd like to see that. And also don't forget to like, subscribe, and favorite, and share these videos with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.